A very good morning to all of you. I welcome you all to Ansarkari and I hope that you all must be doing great. So let's start with today's analysis, which is going to be for 22nd of March 2023. So we'll be having a look at some of the important topics like regarding the electoral bonds, then data regarding the deaths due to COVID-19. Then apart from that, we'll be having Z seeks tighter bonds with Russia, so China and Russia relations, and merit and the layers of discrimination. This is a perspective by two IIT alumni, so we'll be having a look if that's important for us or not. So let's start with analysis. So Supreme Court bench seeks data on alternatives to hanging. So capital punishment obviously is it has been a topic of debate always. So what can be the alternatives to hanging? Hanging के क्या alternatives possible हैं? क्या हो सकते हैं? And it says कि see if there is more humane method of execution that would render the present practice unconstitutional. This is as per a bench of the Chief Justice of sorry. So this is as per the bench of the Chief Justice of India and Justice P.S. Narasimha. They've asked this thing to the government कि hanging के क्या कोई humane method है execute करने का या नहीं. So basically किस तरीके से किस और different process से we can go for the execution is what being seeked for. So in the words of CGI, if we have to relook death by hanging, we need better data. So first important thing is we need much more and better data. Secondly, we want to know the impact of sentence of death by hanging, the pain that is caused, the period of actual death, and the availability of the resources for hanging a person. So ये सारी important चीजें हैं which were highlighted by the CGI. So they are basically pointing towards a more humane method, a more dignified death, I should say. So that's there. And so IMF finally clears $3 billion bailout for Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka being our neighbor, it is important for us to know about their economic situation. What are the causes, main causes behind that situation, the political turmoil, and the same goes for Pakistan. So these are some of the important things that we need to be aware about. So IMF, that is International Monetary Fund, we need to be even like clear with its structure and its like composition, what is its nature. So moving forward, we are seeing that it has extended and it has basically cleared the $3 billion extended fund facility for Sri Lanka, which is potentially unlocking more loans for the debt-ridden island nation that is struggling to recover from the last year's economic meltdown. So you need to find out more about the extended fund facility that is offered by IMF. And as far as I can recall, a question on similar grounds has already been asked in the prelims. So you need to find out more about the extended fund facility. So the objectives of it is the extended fund facility supported program is to restore the macroeconomic stability and the debt sustainability, safeguarding the financial stability and stepping up the structural reforms to unlock the Sri Lanka's growth potential. So these are some of the keywords that you need to keep in mind, and identifying the corruption as the key issue. So this is the key issue that has been identified by the IMF, corruption. So an IMF governance diagnostic mission, it has started assessing Sri Lanka's governance and anti-corruption framework in its first such exercise in Asia. So the loans comes a year after Sri Lanka defaulted on its foreign debt. And obviously, China is the main player when it comes to its debt policy. And that is one of the major reasons for the current situation of Sri Lanka today. So one topic or one issue of debate between the center and states is basically here we are seeing it in the context of West Bengal states. So that is deprivation of states for the funds. So this is in the context of the MGNREGA scheme. So this is one of the issue. And moving forward, so in this context, we need to find out about the key committees that have been constituted for center and state relations. So 6.6 magnitude of earthquake in Afghanistan, rock steady, and it was very huge. Like the situation became very terrible and very fearful. So we have been talking about this thing that in the context of the examination, what is important for us is how the like construction techniques and processes that needs to be changed, because northern India specifically, it is in a highly seismic zone. And apart from that, we need to know about which all categories of seismic zones are there, so that is important. And how safety measures, how basically from the perspective of earthquake, what preparedness level should be there, what like mock drills and everything, how that needs to be like made available, how if you want to basically specifically in the high rises, what would be the proper process of exiting that building if there is an earthquake. So moving forward, so amid protests, we see that Rajasthan becomes the first state to pass the right to health bill. So important for us is to know what are the reasons of protest against this right to health bill in Rajasthan. So doctors and paramedical staff of the private hospitals and nursing homes, they have been agitating against this bill, saying its draconian provisions, they would stifle the private health sector. So the bill is, we can say, it is targeting the private health sector, not in a positive sense, but that is what is the major concern by the private healthcare. So amid a strong protest by the agitating private doctors, so we can see it is private doctors who are protesting. So the bill, it has finally been passed, and it has provision for mandatory free of cost emergency treatment for every resident of the state at both the government hospitals and even the privately run institutions. So this is one provision. Then with this, Rajasthan, obviously it becomes the first state and the only state in the country to legislate the right to health bill. So Rajasthan पूरे इंडिया की first state है to have passed this bill. And the bill, which was tabled in assembly on 22nd September last year, and it was later referred to the select committee, was passed by a voice vote in the House. So the bill gives every resident of the state the right to emergency treatment care without prepayment of the requisite fee or charges by any public health institution, healthcare establishment, and designated healthcare centers. So the right to basically emergency treatment has been made free of cost. So the agitating doctors, they have said that the amendments suggested by them to the select committee, they were not carried out, and the bill had made it mandatory to provide free treatment without defining any emergency. So basically bill defining, basically it is not defining कि emergency situation कौन सी हो सकती है, तो word emergency is not been properly defined. And plus जो concern है of the private healthcare or the private doctors is that जो emergency treatment है that is mandatorily free, तो आप उस पे charge नहीं कर सकते हो. So that is basically what is causing the concern for the private healthcare कि अगर आपको obviously free of cost provide करना पड़ेगा, तो private sector works only for the motive of profit, so obviously इन चीजों पे it would impact. Now the Meghalaya chief minister, he claims the ownership of the disputed border village. And Chief Minister Conrad S. Asama says that Mukro, it is within the jurisdiction of West Jaintia Hills District. Last week, Hemant Sarma, he had said that it was part of Assam. So again, basically disputes between states over territories, and even we have issues in the context of sharing of river waters. So we need to be like knowing about that a particular territory of dispute is a dispute between which two states. Such type of questions can come in the examination, so we need to be aware about that. So our Union Home Minister says that Dayanand Saraswati's life is an inspiration for the current government. So Prime Minister is working for the National Awakening, which is a concept originally based on the philosophy and teachings of Maharishi Dayanand Saraswati. And he was there at the 148th Foundation Day celebrations of Arya Samaj at Delhi's Talkatoora Stadium. So he said that Maharishi Dayanand awakened the soul of the country, which has been in slumber for years, and maintained that a similar situation is prevailing at present as well. Hence, Arya Samaj and its public outreach is the need of the hour. So, Prime Minister has been taking inspiration from the life of Dayanand Saraswati to take the country forward to make it a Vishwa Guru. And so, Dayanand Maharishi, he also fearlessly propagated Swadharma, Swabhasha, and Swaraj in the pre independence era at a time when talking about these it was prohibited. So, Swadharma, Swabhasha, and Swaraj. Even though he was like a Gujarati and he had an expertise in Sanskrit, so Maharishi Dayanand, he spoke and wrote in Hindi, and he had a long vision. He knew that to unite the country, one language is needed for the communication. So it's a matter of pride for me that I was born in the same region. So this is from the Union Home Minister. So these are some of the important details, and Maharishi Dayanand's teachings and works, they are still relevant, no doubt. And on the occasion of his 200th birth anniversary, even RSS bows in reverence before him. So these are some of the important details. Moving forward. Coming to the editorials, let's see what important things do we have here for us. So trouble in Punjab, the government in the center and in the state, they must guard against separatism. So pro-Khalistani forces, they have become active in the state of Punjab again. And obviously we cannot compare this. We cannot say that it is exactly the same as it was in 1980s. But yes, we can say that pro-Khalistani forces, they have again become active in the state of Punjab. And we've been seeing it impacts even till US. So the police action against the violent separatists in the Punjab is a case of better late than never. So police acted, but it was very late. So there's a saying that it's better late than never. So religious fanaticism in the state, it has been raising its ugly head in recent years and going out of control in recent months. So with open calls for violence and threats to the state functionaries, including even the union ministers. So that's how volatile and violent the situation has been for the past few weeks. And we know about the situation and this incident then that a police station was overrun, and the suspects, they were freed from the police station by a violent mob. So this was a complete breakdown of law and order in the state. So the challenge appears to be daunting for the inexperienced Aam Aadmi Party government, and the situation needs more visible coordination and action by the center and the states. So the violent campaign in the 1980s for a separate Khalistan, which was supported by Pakistan, that had pulverized the state and claimed the lives of a sitting prime minister and thousands of innocents in a genocidal outrage targeting the Sikh community. So in 1980s, you need to revisit about all the important incidences, how the things happened, and Operation Blue Star, that is very important. And obviously how basically a Sikh bodyguard took the life of the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So that's how there, and the trauma should not be allowed to return and torment the community or India. Obviously, that thing should not come back again. And six, they are a highly mobile and enterprising community. They now spread around the world, but economic and the social stagnation is taking its toll. So they're still economically and socially stagnant, and agriculture is facing a crisis, and drug abuse is rampant, specifically in the state of Punjab. So troublemakers, they are smelling an opportunity to incite violence, and a wound that is allowed to fester will sicken the whole body. So the looming trouble in Punjab is being inflamed by a mix of religious fanaticism, foreign aided opportunism, and a societal crisis. So these are the keywords कि ये सारी तीनों चीजें एक साथ मिलके अभी current situation को they are running in the state of Punjab. So the mobilization of a section of the Sikh diaspora in the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia for the cause of separatism is also a worrying sign for India. So even in Australia, when the Prime Minister was here in India, so our Prime Minister highlighted the issue of vandalism of the temples, the Hindu temples in Australia. So even in these countries, we are seeing that pro-Khalistanis or the people who are demanding separatism for different states, basically most often it is for the state of Punjab, only for Khalistan. So they're even active in these countries. So center has to work in Punjab and foreign governments to contain this malaise, and violent tendencies, they must be nipped in the bud, and proponents of the hate, they must definitely pay a price for it. So also there has to be a conscious effort to communicate with the Sikh community at large to isolate the toxic elements. And to the world and to citizens, the message must be very clear that India remains a multi-religious and multicultural nation that does not tolerate or require separatism. So this message needs to go out very clearly world across. And a lack of trust between the farmers of Punjab and the center, it had derailed the agricultural laws that sought to reform the sector in 2021. So we know about the farm laws and the agitation that was held by the farmers in 2021. So those agricultural laws, they were not passed and they were turned down. So a combination of strict force against the violent elements and the trust building with the general public, that should be at the heart of the rhetoric and policy of the government. So basically violent elements ko chhodna nahi hai, and the general public of the state, you need to have a trust building exercise with them. जो जनरल पब्लिक है, obviously सरकार के अंदर, सिस्टम के अंदर उनका ट्रस्ट एंड कॉन्फिडेंस होना is very important. So at any rate, no rhetoric from any quarter should be encouraged that causes more alienation. So an objective look if there is a China-led framework in future. So let's understand how things can be if there's a China-led framework in future. So in the keynote speech at the Landing Forum in Beijing, the Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs highlighted the recently unveiled Global Security Initiative concept paper. So GSI, it is presented as a China-led framework that seeks to restore stability and security, particularly in Asia. And accordingly, he also outlined 5 major pillars to effectively implement this GSI Global Security Initiative. So 5 major pillars हैं: mutual respect, openness and inclusion, multilateralism, mutual benefit, and a holistic approach. So there are doubts कि China इन चीजों को follow करता भी है नहीं करता. So it is very easy to say. So as we say that it's easier said than done. And a substance of the narrative that while the promotion of such principles is timely and critical, given the current shifts in the international geopolitical landscape, obviously this is very clearly visible. And इस चीज के ऊपर we have already have had a lot of discussion in West Asia, how Saudi Arabia and Iran, they have restore the diplomatic relations with the aid of China. So उस context में we have also seen कि Yemen में situation can improve, and दोनों countries पहले they were at opposite sides जहाँ तक कि हम येमेन में वॉर की बात करें. So since they have again restored the diplomatic relations, so Yemen में भी situation is improving. So that is one case. And Western Asia में USA, it has, we can say कि जो priority थी USA के लिए West Asia, वो अब नहीं है इस time में, and China is taking opportunity, China is taking advantage of this thing right now. And apart from that, because of Russia-Ukraine war also, we are seeing that the international geopolitical landscape, how that has changed and shaped. So these are two important things. So as I said, that China is seeking to leverage the fault lines by promoting its vision as a capable alternative leader. However, an objective look at the China's recent track record of external engagements paints a completely different picture of what to expect from Beijing's vision of a future security order. So we're going to understand this thing in detail in this article. And the crux of the Global Security Initiative's first principle centers on the need for the countries to adhere to the United Nations Charter. So firstly, when we are talking about mutual respect, So सबसे पहली important चीज है कि we need to abide by the United Nations Charter and the international law while facilitating relations based on mutual trust and respect for each other's sensitivities. So during these past few years, अगर हम चाइना का track record देखें on mutual respect, so China has consistently demonstrated the exact opposite in terms of its relations with its neighbors. So जहाँ तक कि mutual respect की बात है and हम चाइना की बात कर रहे हैं in this context, so as per its track record, we are seeing कि China इसका exactly opposite तरीके से behave कर रहा है when it comes to its neighbors. So along this, we see कि southwestern border में China continues to ensure that its relations with New Delhi, they are provocative, but not only unilateral, disregarding the confidence-building measures and bilateral agreements, but also by constantly undermining India's territorial integrity and sovereignty. So, India के case में we are seeing that obviously this is not true. जहाँ तक कि mutual respect की बात है, and China के अगर हम reality में actions देखें, how it has been going ahead, and China definitely अपनी assertiveness increase कर रहा है in South China Sea by greatly militarizing the disputed maritime territory at the expense of the sovereignty and sovereign rights of its Southeast Asian neighbors. So हमें पता है South China Sea always it is there in news, always this is an issue as far as Indo-Pacific is concerned, and in this context वी आर अगेन सीइंग कि यहाँ पे चाइना अपनी असर्टिवनेस इंक्रीज कर रहा है, मिलिट्री जो बेसिकली मिलिट्री प्रेजेंस है उसको इंक्रीज कर रहा है. इट इज लीडिंग टू मिलिटराइजेशन ऑफ द साउथ चाइना सी रीजन एंड इंडो पैसिफिक हम बोल सकते हैं. एंड ऑब्वियसली जो साउथ ईस्ट एशियन कंट्रीज हैं उनकी सोवरेनिटी, उनकी सोवरेन राइट्स के ऊपर इसका डेफिनेटली इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है. तो इस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे कहाँ गई आपकी म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट? And further in its complete rejection of the international law. So जहाँ तक कि international law की भी बात है, particularly अगर हम बात करें United Nations Convention, the Law of Seas, which is also popularly known as UNCLOS. So China, it continues to assertively intrude and block the access of its neighbors within their respective exclusive economic zones. So South China Sea में ही again it is violating the international law, that is UNCLOS, and we know about the 9-dash line also here. So that is in the context of South China Sea only. So security cooperation की बात करें, third principle. So second principle of GSI, it lies in its openness to spearhead inclusive international engagements. Openness and inclusive international engagement. So while this position, it has been catalyzed by the presence of US, there is treaty alliances in the Western Pacific. Ironically, we see that China also continues to engage in exclusionary policies in East and South China Seas. So not only is this an outright rejection of the freedom of navigation enshrined in the international law, so we are just completely seeing कि China अपने तरीके से behave कर रहा है जहाँ तक कि साउथ चाइना सी की बात है. सो इंटरनेशनल लॉ उसके लिए कोई मायने नहीं रखता है. इट इज नॉट फॉलोइंग दैट. जो साउथ ईस्ट एशियन कंट्रीज हैं उनकी सोवरेनिटी, उनकी इंडिपेंडेंस, उनकी जो सोवरेन राइट्स है वो चाइना के लिए कोई मायने नहीं रखती है. एंड फ्रीडम ऑफ नेविगेशन भी चाइना के लिए कोई इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं रखती है. चाइना जस्ट हैव टू बिहेव अकॉर्डिंग टू इट्स ओन विशेस एंड एस्पिरेशंस. So coming to the third principle of the GSI, that is on the bilateral and the multilateral security cooperation and consultations to address the issues of concern with the parties involved. So इस context में China plays a prominent role in various multilateral institutions. So multilateral institutions जिसमें China की presence है, that includes obviously SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Then अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट हमने इंडिया के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में और भी दो बॉडीज की बात करी थी कि इंडिया एंड चाइना कौन से ऐसे प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं जहाँ पे दोनों साथ में प्रेजेंट हैं. सो वन इज रशिया, इंडिया एंड चाइना, RIC. सो दैट इज ऑल्सो देयर. एंड SCO की हम बात कर चुके हैं. So its understanding the consultation can be seen through the prism of asymmetric power relations, such as constraining the members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, that is ASEAN, from pursuing collective actions against Beijing's assertion. So जहाँ तक कि हम बात करें कि कंसल्टेशन की क्या अंडरस्टैंडिंग है चाइना की. सो चाइना का बेसिकली मानना ये है कि जो एसिमेट्रिक पावर रिलेशंस हैं, सच एज कंस्ट्रेनिंग, बेसिकली चाइना ऑब्वियसली जो आसियान कंट्रीज है ऑब्वियसली दे एक्ट अगेंस्ट बीजिंग्स असर्शन. सो चाइना एसिमेट्रिक पावर में बिलीव करता है एंड ऑब्वियसली इट ट्राइज टू कंस्ट्रेन द मेंबर्स ऑफ आसियान. So moreover, China, it also continues to delay the establishment of crucial code of conduct for the South China Sea as it continues to bolster its military power projection in the disputed territory and indulge in various gray zone strategies. So gray zone strategy, this is a keyword, and चाइना ऑब्वियसली ट्राई कर रहा है कि साउथ एशिया की जहाँ तक बात है, साउथ चाइना सी की जहाँ तक बात है, इंडो पैसिफिक की जहाँ तक बात है, जो डिफरेंट मेंबर कंट्रीज दे आर ट्राइंग कि उस पूरे रीजन के लिए, इंडो पैसिफिक के लिए हम कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट फॉर साउथ चाइना सी लेके आए। चाइना इसको डीले करने में लगा हुआ है क्योंकि इससे चाइना के इंटरेस्ट को इम्पैक्ट होगा। सो चाइना कहाँ इसमें हमें कहीं नहीं दिख रहा कि इट इज supporting openness, it is supporting a free and fair world order that is based on international law. So nowhere we are seeing that China is moving closer towards that. Coming to the fourth principle of the Global Security Initiative, so that is it highlights the prioritization of the positive sum cooperation where parties involved they can equally benefit. So जहाँ भी countries they cooperate, obviously तभी वो cooperate करते हैं जब दोनों को अपने फायदे दिखते हैं and they see कि they can realize their benefits. So while when we look at this thing, so China का जो Belt and Road Initiative है, that is a much needed cooperative framework हम उसको बोल सकते हैं, क्योंकि different countries जब same page पे आ जाएंगी regarding the BRI, we can call that they have to cooperate. And given the significant infrastructure deficit in the developing world, its disregard for the international macroeconomic stability by funding the unsustainable projects for the countries with low or non-existing credit ratings that creates more debt burdens for these countries. So इसको हम in short अगर बोले तो ये चाइना की debt policy है कि जो projects चाइना को unsustainable लगते हैं, unviable लगते हैं, उन प्रोजेक्ट्स पे वो इतना पैसा लगा देता है कि अल्टीमेटली वो कंट्रीज पैसा वापस रीपे नहीं कर पाती हैं। एंड एग्जैक्टली दिस इज द एग्जैक्ट सिचुएशन इन श्रीलंका। इसी रीजन की वजह से आज श्रीलंका की ये सिचुएशन है। So last principle of GSI, it advocates a holistic approach towards the traditional and non-traditional security threats with an equal emphasis on eliminating any breeding ground for insecurity. So throughout the years, हमने देखा है कि rise of China in a transitioning multipolar international system, it has resulted in power competitions with established and rising great powers, and definitely China is context may we have China and USA, and obviously India is also there. So that seeks to preserve and strengthen the established order. So rather than being holistic, China's engagements with these powers indicates a more narrowly defined goal for its power interest. So China basically trying to be a hegemonic power, या फिर वो world में hegemonic power बनना चाहता है, एक single great power जिसका पूरा बोलबाला रहे पूरे world में. So we cannot say कि this is holistic in nature. And China also continues to be a catalyst for insecurity in the non-traditional security realm, starting from its alleged lack of accountability regarding COVID-19 pandemic. So insecurity की भी अगर हम बात करें, चाइना में basically we are seeing कि अगर हम जैसे we are अभी भी WHO की different teams है which are visiting China regarding tracing the source of the origin of the COVID-19. So उस case में भी China has not proved to be accountable. And at the same time, China is also arming the terror groups which are present in Myanmar. So we are not seeing कि जो भी principles अभी हमने discuss किए of the Global Security Initiative, उस पे we are not seeing कि China is, even not even on one principle, we are seeing कि China is doing exactly what that principle is talking about. So therefore, China's Global Security Initiative is far from being a sustainable, equitable, and transparent solution to the growing insecurity that the world is facing. So the key with the sustainable, equitable, and transparent solution, हमें GSI नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है, क्योंकि जो चाइना बोल रहा है वो उसका exactly opposite कर रहा है. So that's there, and rather we see that GSI indicates Beijing's attempt to counter USA's leadership through narratives, regardless of whether it can effectively operationalize such initiatives on the ground or not. So this is, we are seeing कि GSI के through basically China is trying to counter USA, and that is majorly through narrative set करके it is trying to counter USA, and that is just we can say an attempt, because जैसा कि अभी मैंने बोला जो चाइना बोल रहा है वो इसका ऑपोजिट कर रहा है, एग्जैक्टली ऑपोजिट कर रहा है इन रियलिटी. सो वी कैन नॉट से कि अगर चाइना इस चीज, ये ऑब्वियसली चाइना ने इसको प्रपोज किया है, सो ये चाइना का इनिशिएटिव है, बट चाइना ही इससे कंप्लाई नहीं करता है, तो बाकी कंट्रीज तो क्या ही करेंगी. So we are seeing cancer cases, they are on rise, and it is leading to larger economic burden. So most of the expense for the treatment of cancer, which is among the costliest diseases to treat, it is borne by the patients. So because cancer cases increase कर रहे हैं, so economic burden on the patients, that is also increasing क्योंकि treating cancer is a very expensive process. So that's basically the chart, and the data is also pointing towards the same thing. So out of pocket expenditure की यहाँ बात हो रही है. So understanding the waste to energy plants. So again, this issue is in news क्योंकि landfill sites वहाँ पे fire होती है, and specifically ब्रह्मपुरम landfill site की अगर हम बात करें, which is there in Kochi, Kerala. So वहाँ से पूरा टॉपिक स्टार्ट हुआ, एंड कैसे अब हम लैंडफिल्स को कैसे, क्या उनके लिए सोल्यूशन हो सकता है, इसके बारे में हम डिस्कस कर चुके हैं. क्या लॉन्ग टर्म स्टेप्स लेने चाहिए, ये भी हम डिस्कस कर चुके हैं. प्रॉपर साइंटिफिक तरीके से लैंडफिल साइट्स को मैनेज किया जा सकता है. दिस इज व्हाट वी डिस्कस्ड इन डिटेल. एंड आज एक और वन ऑफ द सॉल्यूशंस, दैट इज वेस्ट टू एनर्जी प्लांट्स में बेसिकली कैसे इस वेस्ट को, जो लैंडफिल साइट्स में इतना कूड़े के पहाड़ बन जाते हैं, कैसे हम उसको यूज कर सकते हैं in terms of getting energy out of it. So what kind of waste do these plants they use to generate electricity? So सबसे पहला क्वेश्चन यही है कि किस वेस्ट को यूज करके we can generate electricity through these waste to energy plants. Then why is segregation of the waste important? Segregation of waste हमने बात की है कि one of the most important solutions है जहाँ तक कि हम waste management की बात करते हैं. And how is the Kozhikode municipality it is planning to implement the plant project? And then what are the various challenges that these plants they have to face? So Kerala government ने recently announced किया that the state's first waste to energy project, it is going to be set up in Kozhikode, and the plant facility it is expected to be built in 2 years. So 2 साल में obviously इसको time लगेगा बनने के लिए, and it would be generating about 6 megawatt of power. So on the one side we see कि केरला हम बोल सकते हैं it is one of the most developed states in India जहाँ तक कि एजुकेशन की बात आए, हेल्थ केयर की बात आए, तो ऑब्वियसली हमेशा हमने यही देखा है कि एज पर द डेटा केरला स्टेट हमेशा टॉप पे रहा है. एंड एट द सेम टाइम वी आर सीइंग कि अभी तक केरला में देयर हैज बीन नो वेस्ट टू एनर्जी प्लांट, सो इट इज लैकिंग देयर. सो वी कैन नॉट से कि हर चीज में केरला आगे है. सो इन दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट they are coming out with their first waste to energy plant in Kozhikode. So why do basically what do the waste to energy plants do? So waste to energy plants करते क्या है, पहले इस चीज को समझते हैं. So the basically such type of projects they use non-recyclable dry waste to generate electricity. So I would repeat, non-recyclable plastics that cannot be recycled. कुछ ऐसे हैं प्लास्टिक वैरायटीज जिनको हम रिसाइकिल नहीं कर सकते हैं, दे आर हार्मफुल टू द एनवायरनमेंट. सो नॉन रिसाइकलेबल एंड इट शुड बी ड्राई वेस्ट जिसको यूज करके हम इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेट कर सकते हैं थ्रू दीज वेस्ट टू एनर्जी प्लांट्स. And the process increases the state's power generation capacity. Obviously ये direct benefit है, and it eases the solid waste management burden also. So two important बेनिफिट्स जो हमें वेस्ट टू एनर्जी प्लांट से मिलते हैं यही है कि जो स्टेट्स की पावर जनरेशन कैपेसिटी है वो इंक्रीज हो जाएगी, एंड पावर डिमांड जब स्पाइक हो जाती है सडनली, सो उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में भी ये चीज हमें हेल्प कर सकती है. एंड जो सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट का बर्डन है वो मैसिवली रिड्यूस किया जा सकता है बाय सेटिंग अप वेस्ट टू एनर्जी प्लांट्स. सो जनरली सॉलिड वेस्ट इन इंडिया इज अबाउट 55 to 60% biodegradable organic waste which can be converted into organic compost or biogas also. So around 55% to 60% जो भी वेस्ट जनरेट किया जाता है दैट इज बायोडिग्रेडेबल, एंड उसको हम ऑर्गेनिक कंपोस्ट या बायोगैस में कन्वर्ट कर सकते हैं. एंड 25 से 30% इज नॉन बायोडिग्रेडेबल ड्राई वेस्ट जो कि वेस्ट टू एनर्जी प्लांट्स में यूटिलाइज किया जा सकता है. एंड अराउंड 15% इज इन द फॉर्म ऑफ सिल्ट, स्टोन्स एंड drain waste. So of the non-biodegradable dry waste, only 2 to 3% including hard plastics, metals and e-waste that can only be recycled. सो जब हम बेसिकली नॉन रिसाइकलेबल ड्राई वेस्ट की बात कर रहे हैं उसमें भी जो नॉन बायोडिग्रेडेबल चीजें हैं उसमें से भी 2 से 3% चीजें कुछ ऐसी निकल आती हैं जिसको हम रिसाइकिल कर सकते हैं. सो बाकी जो भी बच गया उसको हम वेस्ट टू एनर्जी प्लांट में यूटिलाइज किया जा सकता है. सो कोझिकोड प्रोजेक्ट को इतना हमें नहीं पता होना चाहिए कि क्या ये पूरा प्रोजेक्ट है, बस ये बताया ठीक है केरला लेके आ रहा है एक ऐसा प्लांट। सो व्हाई डू वेस्ट टू एनर्जी प्लांट्स दे फेल, सो हमने ऐसा मतलब क्या रीजन है इसके पीछे कि ये प्लांट्स जनरली हमने देखे कि ये फेल हो जाते हैं। सो वी सी कि while waste to energy plants they seem like a simple solution, they have several challenges en route to becoming feasible. So there are some obviously कुछ challenges हैं तभी वो फेल हुए हैं। एंड अभी जैसे हम बात कर रहे थे कि क्या सोल्यूशन हो सकता है, तो बात करते टाइम तो इट लुक्स वेरी इजी वेरी सिंपल कि वी हैव सच अ नाइस सोल्यूशन, तो इस पे हम काम क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं। सो लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड कि इसके लिए क्या चैलेंजेस हैं जिसकी वजह से हमने देखा है कि ये प्लांट्स मोस्ट ऑफन दे हैव फेल्ड। सो फर्स्ट वन इज द लो कैलोरिफिक वैल्यू ऑफ द सॉलिड वेस्ट इन इंडिया ड्यू टू इम्प्रॉपर सेग्रीगेशन। सो यहाँ पे एज आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट इन द बिगनिंग कि वेस्ट सेग्रीगेशन कितना इंपॉर्टेंट है। सो क्योंकि इंडिया में प्रॉपर वेस्ट सेग्रीगेशन की हैबिट नहीं है, चाहे आप मतलब हाउस होल्ड लेवल पे बात कर लें, तो वहीं से रादर ये प्रैक्टिस स्टार्ट होनी चाहिए। एवरी वन ऑफ अस वी नीड टू इंश्योर कि जो भी डिफरेंट डस्टबिन होते हैं ब्लू ग्रीन एंड रेड कलर के, अकॉर्डिंगली वी नीड टू डम्प द वेस्ट एंड segregated at the very first level ताकि आगे जाके प्रॉब्लम ना आए। सो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट वी आर सीइंग कि सिंस इंडिया में वेस्ट सेग्रीगेशन प्रॉपर तरीके से नहीं की जाती है, तो उसकी वजह से लो कैलोरिफिक वैल्यू का सॉलिड वेस्ट इन इंडिया इज ह्यूज। And the calorific value of the mixed Indian waste is about 1500 kilocalories per kg, which is not suitable for the power generation. So this is the reason. One of the challenges that is to be faced by these waste to energy plants. So biodegradable waste, it has high moisture content and it cannot be used for power generation. So जैसे हमने बात करी dry waste use किया जा सकता है बस। So biodegradable waste में तो already इतना moisture होता है कि उसको हम यूज नहीं कर सकते हैं फॉर पावर जनरेशन। उसको वी कैन कन्वर्ट इनटू अ कंपोस्ट एंड मैन्योर, जिसको आगे हम एग्रीकल्चरल फील्ड्स में यूज कर सकते हैं। So calorific value of the segregated and dried non-recyclable waste is much higher, that is around 2800 to 3000 kilocalories per kg, which is sufficient to generate power. So इतनी calorific value होनी चाहिए of the non-recyclable dry waste जिसको हम वेस्ट टू एनर्जी प्लांट्स में यूटिलाइज कर सकते हैं। सो हाउएवर सेग्रीगेशन इट शुड बी स्ट्रीमलाइन टू इंश्योर कि वेस्ट दैट इज कमिंग टू द फैसिलिटी दैट हैज हाई कैलोरिफिक वैल्यू। सो इसीलिए वेस्ट सेग्रीगेशन बहुत बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है। सेकेंड चैलेंज इज द हाई कॉस्ट ऑफ दीज एनर्जी प्रोडक्शन प्लांट्स। सो जो हमें टेक्नोलॉजी चाहिए, जो हमें अमाउंट चाहिए, जो हमें इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पूरा क्रिएट करना है फॉर सेटिंग अप सच प्लांट्स, द कॉस्ट इज वेरी हाई। सो दैट इज द नेक्स्ट चैलेंज। एंड सिंस इसका कॉस्ट इतना हाई है, तो जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेट की जाती है उसका कॉस्ट भी अल्टीमेटली हाई होगा। So here the data is given कि cost of generating power from the waste is around 7 to 8 rupees for 1 unit, while the cost at which the state's electricity boards they buy power from the coal or the hydroelectric and solar power plants, that is around rupees 3 to 4 per unit. So यहाँ पे हमें इलेक्ट्रिसिटी भी एक्सपेंसिव प्राइस पे मिलेगी जो भी जनरेट की जाएगी by these plants. So we see कि while the state electricity boards they are considering purchasing power from the newer renewable energy sources like waste to energy, the price of the power generated that needs to be halved. So almost जो cost है वो half होनी चाहिए, तभी we can say कि it would be feasible in the longer run. And finally, many waste to energy plants they have failed because of improper assessments, high expectations, improper characterization studies, and other on-ground conditions. So ये main reasons हैं कि why waste to energy plants they have most often failed. देन और जो बाकी फैक्टर्स हैं जिसके ऊपर वेस्ट एनर्जी प्रोजेक्ट्स की परफॉर्मेंस डिपेंड करती है, दैट इंक्लूड्स द म्युनिसिपल कलेक्शन एफिशिएंसी कैसी है, वेस्ट सेग्रीगेशन किस तरीके से हो रहा है, किस स्केल पे हो रहा है, मॉइस्चर कंटेंट क्या है ऑफ द वेस्ट, एंड देन द ऑपरेशनल एफिशिएंसी ऑफ द एग्जिस्टिंग बायोडिग्रेडेबल वेस्ट प्रोसेसिंग प्लांट्स. So if these plants they have operational woes, the nature of the waste will change drastically to have high moisture content and low calorific value. So जितना ज्यादा moisture होता है waste में उतनी low इसकी calorific value होती है, and उस waste को हम इन plants में use नहीं कर सकते हैं. So that is the thing and all important details जो हमने बात करी. So importantly, the municipality or the department responsible for the SWM segregation should be practical about the high cost of the power generation. So जो ये plants हैं, जो municipalities हैं, they need to be practical and they need to keep this thing in their mind कि there is going to be high cost of power generation through these plants, and they need to include the state electricity department perhaps as a tripartite agreement between municipality, the plant operator, and the power distribution agency. So it is also crucial to conduct the field studies. पहले proper assessment करना चाहिए before coming with such types of project, and you need to learn from the experience of other projects कि कैसे हम और जो आने वाले टाइम में जो नए प्रोजेक्ट सेटअप किए जाएंगे उसमें हम कैसे और इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं. So Supreme Court is going to examine the poll bond pleas. They need to be referred to the Constitution bench or not. So poll bond यहाँ हम बात करें electoral bonds के बारे में. So जो भी issues है related to electoral bonds, Supreme Court is going to examine क्या उनको हम आगे refer कर सकते हैं to the Constitution bench or not. So the bench, which is led by CGI, it is going to hear it on 11th of April. After the petitioners, they urge the court to take up the case before Karnataka Assembly elections, which is said to be held in May. So petitions, they have been in limbo for nearly 8 years. So 8 साल हो चुके हैं ऐसी इन petitions को जो basically they are related to electoral bonds, उनको अभी तक they have not been taken up. So the amendments, they have removed the caps on the campaign donations by companies and it have legalized anonymous donations. So basically illegal practices को legal कर दिया गया है कि आप जो अनोनिमस डोनेशंस हैं उनको लीगलाइज कर दिया गया है, एंड जो एक पर्टिकुलर कंपनी पैसा डोनेट कर सकती है उसके ऊपर कोई लिमिट ही नहीं है. मतलब आप कितना भी चाहो आप कितना भी पैसा डोनेट कर सकते हो टू द पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज, एंड अनोनिमस डोनेशंस भी लीगलाइज कर दी गई हैं. सो ये कुछ issues हैं regarding electoral bonds, and the Finance Act of 2017, it has introduced the use of electoral bonds, opening doors to unchecked funding to the political parties. So हालांकि इसके like जो electoral bonds है इसके favor में हमेशा argument ये दी जाती है कि it has made the process much more transparent. जो corrupt practices हैं, जो corrupt तरीके से पैसा donate किया जाता था, black money donate किया जाता था, वो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो गई है. बट एट द सेम टाइम इस एक्ट ने जो इलीगल चीजें थी वो ही लीगलाइज कर दी है, तो कहाँ से प्रॉब्लम यू कैन से कि सॉल्व हो गई है. वो बेसिकली पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज के लिए चीजें सॉल्व हो गई हैं, बट अल्टीमेटली जो लोग चाहते हैं, जो मेन इशू था करप्शन का, जो ब्लैक मनी यूसेज से रिलेटेड प्रॉब्लम्स थी, वो तो सॉल्व नहीं हो पाई है. वो भी बेसिकली एक तरीके से लीगलाइज ही हो गई है थ्रू दिस अमेंडमेंट. So the Finance Act of 2016, it was also amended, and it has amended the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act of 2010 to allow the foreign companies with their subsidiaries in India to fund the political parties in India, effectively exposing Indian politics and democracy to international lobby also. So एक amendment ये भी की गई है कि जो foreign companies हैं and अगर उनकी subsidiaries India में हैं तो वो political parties को funding दे सकती है. So basically we can say कि एक तरीके से international lobby भी influence कर सकती है the political parties in India, and अगर वो political party आगे finally it wins and it comes to power, so जो international lobby की demands होगी obviously उस political party को वो fulfill करनी पड़ेगी. So that's how things work through these political donations. And ये कुछ issues हैं, so let's see कि क्या basically इन petitions को constitution bench को refer किया जा सकता है या नहीं. So let's see what Supreme Court would be saying on this whole issue. So attempts by the presiding officers to break parliament deadlock fail to yield result. So we are seeing कि parliament में deadlock still it is continuing and parliament function नहीं कर पा रहा है. And इस चीज को we cannot say it is a healthy sign of democracy. And अगर ये चीजें ऐसे instances आने वाले future में repeat होने वाले हैं, so we cannot say कि it would be strengthening the democracy, it would be strengthening the system. लोगों का trust कम हो जाएगा, confidence कम हो जाएगा in the parliament and obviously in the government also. So इस तरीके से ना तो parliament work कर पा रहा है, ना ही जो opposition parties की demands है, ना ही वो fulfill हो पा रही है. तो ultimately जो दोनों चीजें कुछ भी काम नहीं कर पा रहे हैं and किसी का कोई फायदा भी नहीं हो रहा है. तो इस तरीके से things should not go on in future. That what we can expect as of now. So पुलिस का कहना ये है कि अमृतपाल की सर्च में तो वो लगे हुए हैं, but he has changed clothes and he fled on motorbike with his associates. So इससे रिगार्डिंग कुछ सीसीटीवीज भी आई, सीसीटीवी फुटेजेस भी आई हैं जो न्यूज चैनल्स पे आपको दिखाई दे रही हैं. सो वी कैन से, क्या हम बोल सकते हैं कि पंजाब पुलिस का फेलियर है या नहीं? बिकॉज अगर ही कैन एस्केप अमिड so much of police force searching for him, so उसके लिए तो he is a very like बहुत बड़ी success हो गई कि if he finally is able to escape to the neighboring countries like Nepal, तो पंजाब पुलिस का डेफिनेटली इट इज गोइंग टू बी अ वेरी ह्यूज फेलियर, क्योंकि पहले वो पर्सन ओपनली वायलेंस इंसाइट करने की कोशिश कर रहा था, ओपनली वाज मूविंग विद वेपन्स, इलीगल वेपन्स, एंड देन ही इज आल्सो एबल टू सक्सेसफुली एस्केप. So anti-submarine warship INS Androth, it has been launched. So it is a second in the series of the 8 anti-submarine warfare shallow water craft, and it was launched in Kolkata. You can also have a look at it in this picture. So it was built by Garden Reach shipbuilders and engineers, and it is propelled by three diesel-driven water jets. So these ships, they can attain a maximum speed of 25 knots, and their primary role is to conduct anti-submarine operations in coastal waters, low-intensity maritime operations, and mine-laying operations also. So these ships, they are also capable of full-scale subsurface surveillance of the coastal waters and various surface platforms coordinated by ASW operations with the aircraft. Government says कि जो कास्ट डेटा है from 2011 that is technically flawed. So कुछ ऐसे states है जहाँ पे caste census किया भी जा रहा है, and one of them is Bihar. So Union government it reiterated its position that the caste data that was collected in the socio-economic caste census of 2011, it is technically flawed and hence it has not been made official for any purpose. So आज तक इसका डेटा ही अवेलेबल नहीं है पब्लिकली, एंड जो गवर्नमेंट ने रीजन दिया है कि इट इज टेक्निकली फ्लॉड, दैट्स व्हाई दे आर नॉट मेकिंग इट पब्लिक. नॉट सो कन्विंसिंग, बट that's what the government has to say over it. So Supreme Court refuses to intervene in plea over demonetized notes. So Supreme Court ने मना कर दिया है to interfere or to intervene on this issue of demonetized notes, and it refused to intervene on behalf of the individuals who could not exchange their demonetized currency for valid bank notes in 2016. So basically जो plea है that is कि जो लोग अपना पैसा एक्सचेंज नहीं कर पाए थे उनका क्या होगा. सो 2 months आफ्टर द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच, सो 2 महीने पहले कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच ने एक मेजोरिटी वर्डिक्ट में बोला था, दे अपहेल्ड द गवर्नमेंट्स डिमोनेटाइजेशन पॉलिसी, एंड जो एक्सरसाइज की गई, सो दैट वाज अपहेल्ड बाय द सुप्रीम कोर्ट, एंड द कोर्ट सेड कि इट कैन नॉट फ्लेक्स इट्स extraordinary powers under article 142. So 142 is to help the persons who missed the opportunity to trade their demonetized. Basically, not this article is not regarding demonetization, but it is basically जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का कहना यह है कि वो आर्टिकल 142 के अंडर जो पावर्स हैं टू द सुप्रीम कोर्ट, वो उन पावर्स को यूज करके इस इशू में यूज नहीं कर सकते हैं. सो कोर्ट हाउएवर इट हैज ऑब्जर्व्ड दैट द ग्रीवेंसेस दे मे बी जेन्युइन एंड डायरेक्टेड द एग्रीव्ड पिटिशनर्स टू अप्रोच द कोर्ट, अप्रोच द सेंटर फॉर रिप्लाई. सो कोर्ट ने उन लोगों को सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को कॉन्टैक्ट करने के लिए एंड उनको अपनी प्रॉब्लम्स बताने के लिए बोला है. एंड क्या ये एक्चुअली रियलाइज हो पाएगा या नहीं इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू से. So there is a mental illness act जो कि गवर्नमेंट लेके आ रही है. So mental health care act 2017 वो डिफाइन करता है substance abuse disorders as mental illness. So substance abuse disorders, they are defined as mental illness as per this law, as per this bill. This is a law. Mental Health Care Act of 2017, it defines the substance abuse disorders as mental illness, and the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, it is informed the Parliament in response to a question जो कि raise किया गया था, whether government recognized this as mental illness or not. So in this law, it is mentioned there. So obviously government also recognizes that. And This issue also come under the umbrella of the National Action Plan for the Drug Demand Reduction. So this involves running the Nasha Mukt Bharat Abhiyan in 372 vulnerable districts. So this is also one of the steps that has been initiated by the government, जहाँ तक कि drug abuse की बात है. Coming to the world page. So Biden moves to protect two giant wilderness areas in Nevada and Texas. So he has designated these two wilderness areas, which is there in Nevada and Texas, as national monuments, as well as considering a new marine sanctuary, जो कि set up की जाएगी in the Pacific. So it comes a week after he approved the giant willow oil drilling project in remote area of Alaska, angering the protesters. And Bangladesh, it is careful about the Chinese loans, says the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. So basically loan apps के through people को, like लोगों को फ्रॉड किया जा रहा है उनके साथ, एंड दीज आर बेसिकली चाइनीज लोन ऐप से बोला जा रहा है. सो प्लीज बी अवेयर कि आप ऐसी चीजों में ट्रिक ना हो पाओ एंड अल्टीमेटली फ्रॉड भी ना हो पाए आप लोगों के साथ. सो स्टे अवेयर. एंड ऐसी अगर कोई इलीगल लाइक आपको लगता है कि कोई ऐसा लिंक है, सो लिंक पे भी प्लीज ना क्लिक करें एंड ऐसी एप्स को भी डाउनलोड ना करें अपने डिवाइसेस में. So Chinese President Xi Jinping hails the great neighboring powers was to strengthen ties with Russia. So हमें पता है China and Russia already they are very closer, but again they are trying to strengthen the relations. They are coming more closer. And Putin calls the talks meaningful and frank and says that Moscow, which has been largely cut out of the European markets because of the sanctions, would be able to meet China's growing demand for energy. Neither later they make any mention of Ukraine. So obviously हमें पता है कि रशिया के ऊपर सैंक्शंस लगाए गए हैं बाय द वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड एंड यूरोपियन मार्केट से, उसकी वजह से रशिया हैज बीन कट ऑफ, बट एट द सेम टाइम इंडिया एंड चाइना ने इस चीज का फायदा उठाया है. एंड रशिया ने बोला है कि जो चीजें पहले वो यूरोप को सप्लाई करते थे अब वो चाइना को सप्लाई करेंगे, एंड दैट्स हाउ जो चाइना में डिमांड भी इंक्रीज हो रही है उसको भी मीट किया जाएगा. So coming to the business page, see top 22% firms, they remit 90% of the GST kitty, says our Union Finance Minister. So top 22 businesses, they're having a turnover above rupees 50 crores. They pay 90% of the India's goods and services tax. So 90% is coming from only 22% of the top businesses जो इंडिया में function कर रहे हैं. So again ये भी show करता है एक तरीके से economic inequality कि 22 बिजनेस फर्म्स हैं जो फायदा ले पा रही हैं या फिर जो इतने अच्छे तरीके से दे आर बीइंग रन इन द कंट्री, जिनका बिजनेस उनके लिए प्रॉफिटेबल प्रूव कर रहे हैं. सो दिस इज अगेन फ्रॉम द ऑक्सफैम रिपोर्ट जो कि इकोनॉमिक इनइक्वालिटी का डेटा भी पब्लिश करता है. सो रिपोर्ट्स कंक्लूजन की richest 10% they contribute a fraction of the GST kitty, while the poorest 50% they contribute 2/3 of the revenues. So again, higher amount of economic inequality, even because of GST, we can say in a way, as per this data. So the Oxfam report, it seems to be based on various improbable assumptions and not irrefutable or verifiable facts. So the minister, this was what our Union Finance Minister had to say कि Oxfam report जिस data को utilize करके ये results बता रही है, that is not verifiable, that data cannot be verified. क्योंकि उनका कहना ये है कि इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल एग्जैक्टली टू कैलकुलेट कि कैसे जीएसटी इज एक्चुअली पेड बाय होम. तो इस चीज को कैलकुलेट करना बहुत मुश्किल है कि जीएसटी कौन कितना जीएसटी पे कर रहा है, इसको कैलकुलेट करना बहुत मुश्किल है. सो उस बेसिस पे our Union Finance Minister is saying कि data cannot be verified and hence we cannot basically agree to whatever this Oxfam report has to say. So India to buck the global slowdown, maintain its expansion as per the RBI official. So अभी अगर हम इंडियन economy की बात करें, so definitely our macroeconomic fundamentals are very strong. We are very resilient, we're stable, and we are very disciplined right now. Even our banking system या हमारा जो financial system है, that is very disciplined and resilient. So जो global slowdown हमें देखने को मिल रहा है, we are not expecting कि India में भी same slowdown देखने को मिलेगा, and India आने वाले time में सिर्फ expand ही करने वाला है. So having a look at mint, क्या important चीजें हैं आज हमारे लिए यहाँ पे. So why IPCC wants to speed up the climate efforts? So IPCC wants to speed up the climate efforts. ये कल हमने आर्टिकल देखा था कि IPCC was saying कि अगर हमने अभी immediate steps नहीं लिए तो जो opportunity window हमारे पास वो भी हमारे पास नहीं होगी, वो भी बंद हो जाएगी. So जो अगर 1.5 डिग्री सेल्सियस का इंक्रीज हो गया तो things would get worse आने वाले टाइम में. So it is time to act, and the comprehensive review of the 6th assessment report, it sends a clear message कि what we do in the coming few years, it will determine our livable future. So हमारे पूरे आने वाले टाइम के लिए, आने वाले फ्यूचर के लिए जो स्टेप्स हम आज ले रहे हैं, they are very very important. So ये assessment reports actually हैं क्या? तो IPCC, it was founded in 1988 by the United Nations Environment Program and the World Meteorological Organization. So इसमें 195 member states हैं जो climate scientist को appoint करती है, experts हैं जो review and report करते हैं on climate change observations over a period of 6 to 8 years, and they are called an assessment cycle. So each cycle has 3 working reports. हर cycle की 3 working reports होती है and synthesis report होती है, जिससे हमें थोड़ी पिक्चर क्लियर होती है रिगार्डिंग क्लाइमेट चेंज. एंड द फर्स्ट रिपोर्ट इट वाज पब्लिश्ड इन 1990. So that's there, and these reports, they are vital for the governments to take up climate action. So हमें basically पता चल जाता है कि कैसे क्या situation है and कैसे चीजें change हो रही है. तो accordingly governments के लिए भी reports helpful होती हैं कि उनको क्या steps लेने चाहिए. And their synthesis report, so ये जानना इतना important नहीं है. So why are the warnings addressed? They are urgent. So जो warnings issue की गई है, why are they being termed as urgent? क्यों इतनी urgent है? So more than 3 billion people, they live in areas that are highly vulnerable to climate change, and millions, they face the food and water scarcity. So even food and water insecurity एक issue है, and this is what the latest report is highlighting कि 3 billion लोग ऐसे हैं जो ऐसे regions में रहते हैं which is highly vulnerable, and food insecurity and water insecurity another issue. So inaction, it will make extreme weather events more frequent. So अगर हम कुछ भी action नहीं लेंगे तो obviously आने वाले time में चीजें worse ही होंगी. And the good news is that there are multiple feasible and effective options to reduce greenhouse gases emissions and adapt to human caused climate change. So adaptation and mitigation, 2 important pillars we can see. So latest forecast क्या है IPCC के regarding climate change? So they show key emissions, they should be cut by nearly half by 2030 to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And the best case scenario for the Earth's future is कि हम 1.5 डिग्री सेल्सियस तक अगर टेम्परेचर को इंक्रीज ना करने में we are basically successful कि टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज ना हो by 1.5 डिग्री सेल्सियस by 2030. तो उसके लिए हमें जो अभी एमिशंस हैं, कार्बन एमिशंस हैं, उनको ऑलमोस्ट हाफ करना पड़ेगा. एंड दिस इज द बेस्ट केस सिनेरियो फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस. एंड इफ एमिशंस दे कंटिन्यू टू राइज एट द करंट पेस, द वर्स्ट केस वार्मिंग, इट कुड इवन गो अप टू 4.5 to 5 डिग्री सेल्सियस by 2100. So this is very alarming, and record emissions in the past decade, they mean that 1.5 degrees Celsius goal now needs emissions to peak before 2025 and be cut by 43% by 2030. So that's why basically the report is also urgent, and urgent steps are also required. So how should the world step up its efforts? So क्या actions, क्या steps लेने अब important है by the entire world, entire globe? So the Earth's climate, it's already warmed up to 1.1 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. So 1.1 degrees Celsius का increase already हम achieve कर चुके हैं. So this is not an achievement, but it is resulting in more frequent and intense extreme weather events, so with a further rise in sea level expected. So ये तो हमें पता ही था already, and temperature is it is also increased already. So the most valuable communities, they live in some of the least developed and low-lying island countries. They're home to roughly 1 billion people, who's ironically they account for less than 1% of the global warming. So जो लोग सबसे ज्यादा वनरेबल है टू द इम्पैक्ट्स ऑफ क्लाइमेट चेंज, उन्होंने क्लाइमेट चेंज में लीस्ट कंट्रीब्यूट किया है. बट अगर हम डेंजर, अगर हम रिस्क की बात करें, तो दैट इज बेसिकली उनको हाईएस्ट रिस्क है. And governments, they must pace up the climate goals, adopt measures to ensure that there's climate justice, reduce the impact of ongoing climate crisis. So what are some of the lessons from the world for India's e-rupee? So offline use की बात करें तो low smartphone internet use makes a case for the offline central bank digital currency. So India में स्मार्टफोन्स एंड इंटरनेट का यूसेज कम है कंपेयर टू अदर कंट्रीज. एंड अगर हम पेनिट्रेशन की बात करें एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन, दैट इज वेरी लो. यू कैन सी कि इंडिया इज बिहाइंड ऑल दीज कंट्रीज जो कि टॉप में है, बहामास, स्वीडन, इजराइल, रशिया, घना, चाइना, ब्राजील, इन सबसे पीछे इंडिया में व्हेन इट कम्स टू स्मार्टफोन एंड इंटरनेट पेनिट्रेशन. बट ओनली नाइजीरिया से आगे हैं. सो दैट्स हाउ बेसिकली ऑफलाइन न्यूज and basically offline central bank digital currency can also help. So CBDC transactions, they take place via an app on the user's mobile phone. So smartphone access and internet connectivity are its minimum requirements. So अगर हम CBDC ट्रांजैक्शंस की भी बात करें तो आपके पास स्मार्टफोन होना चाहिए, आपके पास इंटरनेट कनेक्शन होना चाहिए. बस ये दो चीजें होनी इंपॉर्टेंट है अगर आपको CBDC में ट्रांजैक्शन करना है. सो बट दिस एक्सक्लूड्स सिग्निफिकेंट चंक्स ऑफ यूजर्स इन द इमर्जिंग इकोनॉमी. सो इसलिए हमने यहाँ पे smartphone and internet penetration की बात करी है. So eyeing on inclusion, so despite the major strides, India's digital payments use, it lags behind the emerging markets peers. डेफिनेटली कोविड-19 की वजह से हमने डिजिटल पेमेंट्स में देखा कि दे हैव सिग्निफिकेंटली इंक्रीज, दे हैव एक्सपोनेंशियली इंक्रीज. बट स्टिल अगर हम अपनी पोजीशन दूसरी कंट्रीज के साथ कंपेयर करें तो वी आर स्टिल लैकिंग बिहाइंड. सो मोर नीड्स टू बी डन एट दिस फ्रंट and we need to promote adoption. So India's fastest growing real-time payments market, it will benefit the e-rupee. So agar hum baat kare total real-time digital payments in India, so in terms of volume, you can see how massively they have increased. But we need to promote more of adoption, and in value terms also it has burgeoned a lot. So policy revolution, CBDCs, they can be programmed to boost money velocity during the crisis. So obviously physical money payments possible nahi ho payenge during the crisis. So that's how COVID-19 ke time mein bhi, this was one of the reasons ki why digital payments, they surged massively. So global financial crisis mein, you can see this is basically showing velocity of money in India, ki how frequently money changes hands. And that is what simply अगर आप समझो कि क्या velocity of money, speed of money, that is कितनी speed से या कितने rate से money is being exchanged in the country. तो जो .com bubble burst हुआ उस टाइम पे it massively declined, global financial crisis के टाइम पे stagnant decline हुई, उसके बाद थोड़ी revive हुई, COVID-19 के टाइम में भी it declined and then it has revived. So similar basically similar pattern ही है जो हमने global financial crisis के टाइम पे देखा. So CBDCs, they are programmable, and they are programmable as the underlying blockchain technology. It allows the creation of specific purpose CBDCs with an expiry date. So for example, 2021 mein China distributed their eCNY for use at designated shops, so within a defined period. So Singapore also tried out a similar initiative last year. So such programmed money is like a voucher, motivating holders to spend it quickly rather than save it. सो इसमें आपको सेव करने का कोई ऑप्शन नहीं मिलेगा क्योंकि इसकी एक डेफिनेट टाइम पीरियड होगा जिसके अंदर आपको ये स्पेंड करना पड़ेगा. सो इस तरीके से बेसिकली CBDCs, दे कैन हेल्प कि वेलोसिटी ऑफ मनी ज्यादा डिक्लाइन ना हो एंड ट्रांजैक्शंस करने में भी आपको इतने ज्यादा कोई प्रॉब्लम ना हो. सो बेसिकली आप इनको कस्टमाइज कर सकते हो. सो हाई यूसेज ऑफ द फिजिकल कैश इन इंडिया, इट कुड पोज अ चैलेंज फॉर द CBDC. सो इंडिया में बेसिकली अगर आप पूछो तो आम आदमी यही कोशिश करता है कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा अपने पास कैश रखे एंड फिजिकल पेमेंट्स में ज्यादा रिलायबिलिटी हम मानते हैं. दैट्स हाउ आवर माइंडसेट इज. सो ये थोड़ा चेंज करना पड़ेगा अगर वी नीड टू शिफ्ट टुवर्ड्स CBDC. सो अगर हम बात करें इंडिया का डेटा देखे, इंडिया इज एट द लोवेस्ट व्हेन वी आर कंपेयरिंग कि कितना डेबिट एंड क्रेडिट कार्ड इंडिया में यूज किया जाता है. सो दिस इज बेसिकली परसेंटेज शेयर ऑफ 15 प्लस पॉपुलेशन जो डेबिट कार्ड एंड क्रेडिट कार्ड यूज करते हैं. तो इंडिया में इट इज ओनली 5%. एंड अगर मोबाइल और इंटरनेट, बेसिकली अगर आपको ऑनलाइन ट्रांजैक्शन करने हैं थ्रू मोबाइल या फिर इंटरनेट, जैसे यूपीआई आपको करना होता है, तो दैट इज ओनली 1%. सो बहुत ही ज्यादा लो है इंडिया में. एंड दिस इज गिवन कि अभी एक्सपोनेंशियली इतनी ज्यादा डिजिटल पेमेंट्स इंडिया में देखी गई, उसके बाद इंडिया का शेयर इतना कम है. So taking up Financial Express and going through important things only. So invites का हमें पता होना चाहिए होते क्या हैं. And the National Highways Authority of India, Power Grid and others, they seek relief. So tax blow to invites, it may be softened. So tax कम किया जा सकता है. So the proposal would expose the foreign investors, key participants in invites to a tax of 40%, which is tax plus the cess and surcharge. And these are some of the loopholes, plugging some of the loopholes. So कुछ steps लिए जा रहे हैं. So proposal to tax returns as the capital gains rather than as income. So जो बेसिकली जो इनकम है उसको टैक्स ना करने के बजाय जो आपके रिटर्न्स हैं उनको कंसिडर किया जाए कि दीज आर योर कैपिटल गेन्स एंड उन पे टैक्स इम्पोज किया जाएगा. सो ये कुछ इसके ऊपर बातचीत चल रही है, कुछ चेंजेस किए जा रहे हैं. So digital agricultural education. Our Union Agriculture Minister says that the blended learning platform for higher education in agriculture is an extension of Krishi Megh, and I believe it will strengthen the foundation of Krishi Megh and it will help in meeting the requirement of digital learning. So agricultural education through the digital medium, it can help, and isko provide kiya ja raha hai through Krishi Megh. So that's there. So इस बारे में हम ऑलरेडी बात कर चुके हैं कि इंडिया इज गोइंग टू डिफाई द ग्लोबल स्लो डाउन एंड रिटेन द पेस ऑफ ग्रोथ एज पर द आरबीआई ऑफिशियल्स. एंड जीएसटी वाली भी बात कर चुके हैं, ऑक्सफैम रिपोर्ट जो ये बात कर रहे थे. So competition bill is likely to be passed in the current session and this would be introduced as a private member bill. So आपको पता होना चाहिए कि what do we mean by private member bill and कौन से ऐसे bills हैं जो private members उनको present कर सकते हैं, the bill जो introduce कर सकते हैं. So the idea of this private members bill was always just to provide helpful input to the government, and because we have done a very elaborate and thorough examination of the digital competition bills around the world, so ये government को help करने वाला है. This is coming from Jan Sinha, who is member of Lok Sabha, and he says कि we thought it would be helpful to actually package it all together and put together a private members bill that could then be an input for the government's deliberation. Coming directly to opinion page. So exchange rate की बात करें, exchange options. So over the past 50 years, many countries, they have decided that the benefits of floating exchange rates, they outweigh the advantages of the fixed rates. So last 50 years के अगर performance देखे and different countries का perspective देखे and उनके learnings देखे, तो we have found कि जो floating exchange rate है उसमें benefits ज़्यादा देखे गए compared to the fixed rates. So that is one learnings, and there are many options between the two extremes of a firm can fix and free floating exchange rate, including the target zones, so currency markets and crawling pegs. So बहुत सारे options है between the two extremes. So two extremes हैं कि आप fixed exchange, एक one extreme है and दूसरा extreme है पूरा free floating exchange rate. So इन दोनों के बीच में बहुत सारे options हैं when it comes to the exchange rate system. So, anchoring expectations when an exceptional situation that led to the low interest passes, it is seen that people expect the low rates to continue forever. What is necessary is to anchor the repo rate to a normal. So, one way would be to have an indicative real interest rate for the policy benchmark. Targeting a real repo rate of 1% or 1.5% will anchor the expectation. So, obviously, repo rates को इतना ज़्यादा increase किया जा चुका है कि आने वाले time में एक तो जो हमारी एक्सपेक्टेशंस है रिगार्डिंग इन्फ्लेशन वो कम होने का नाम नहीं ले रही है एंड ओबियसली टाइट मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी भी इन्फ्लेशन को कम करने में कहीं से हेल्प नहीं किया, इतना मेजरली हेल्प नहीं किया जो हमारा मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव था, अभी तक हम उसको मीट नहीं कर पाए। तो वी कैन नॉट से कि टाइट मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी इट हैज बीन सक्सेस इन कंट्रोलिंग एंड कंटेनिंग द इन्फ्लेशन डाउन। सो यहाँ पे अब ये आर्टिकल बात कर रहा है कि आपका रियल इंटरेस्ट रेट बेंचमार्किंग होनी चाहिए, एक टारगेट होना चाहिए ऑफ रियल रेपो रेट। सो कभी हम बात करते हैं कि इन्फ्लेशन रेट का टारगेट होना चाहिए, अब ये आर्टिकल बोल रहा है कि रियल रेपो रेट का कोई टारगेट होना चाहिए। सो वी नीड टू बी क्लियर फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल कि किस चीज को टारगेट करना है। एंड एक नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट ऑफ इंक्रीजिंग द रेपो रेट इज डेफिनेटली इट इज गोइंग टू बी ऑन द जीडीपी ग्रोथ। सो उस वजह से अब थोड़े कंसर्न्स इंक्रीज हो रहे हैं क्योंकि आप रेपो रेट को भी एंडलेसली इंक्रीज नहीं कर सकते हो क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली जीडीपी ग्रोथ भी आपके लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है, नॉट जस्ट कंट्रोलिंग एंड कंटेनिंग डाउन द इन्फ्लेशन। एंड इन्फ्लेशन तो कम हो ही नहीं रही है इतनी ज्यादा, जो हमारा टारगेट इन्फ्लेशन है वो नहीं मीट कर पा रहे, उसके आसपास भी नहीं है अभी तो। सो इस वजह से अब रिगार्डिंग द टाइट मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी भी क्वेश्चंस रेज किए जा रहे हैं। Finally, coming to Indian Express, just quickly go through what important articles are left. So, High Court of Punjab, it asks Punjab कि how did you let Amritpal escape? So ये मैं बोल चुकी हूँ कि पहले इतना violence publicly he was there, he was like moving with illegal arms, and अब he successfully escaped. So पुलिस क्या कर रही थी? Definitely questions raise किए जाएंगे. So NSA has been invoked against Amritpal and his ADs, and police has informed the High Court in its affidavit. So let's see Punjab police successful हो पाएगी या नहीं, आने वाले टाइम में ही हमें पता चलेगा। So राइट टू हेल्थ बिल की हम बात कर चुके हैं जो राजस्थान ने पास किया है एंड क्या इशू है फॉर द प्राइवेट हेल्थ केयर। सो क्रिप्टो ट्रेडिंग फ्रॉड्स में वी आर सीइंग कि बेंगलुरु में ऐसे इंस्टेंसेस इंक्रीज हुए हैं। ₹70 crore हैव बीन लॉस्ट लास्ट ईयर। सो एक साल में ₹70 crore का फ्रॉड ऑलरेडी हो चुका है इन क्रिप्टो ट्रेडिंग एंड बेंगलुरु ऐसी सिटी है जहाँ पे हाईएस्ट अमाउंट ऑफ ऐसे फ्रॉड्स रिकॉर्ड किए गए हैं। सो मनी लॉस्ट इन क्रिप्टो ट्रेडिंग फ्रॉड्स 2020, 21, 2022 में तो कांट कंपेयर इट ओनली। सो इतना ज्यादा फ्रॉड हो रहा है। सो इस पे हम ये भी बात कर चुके हैं कि आरबीआई का क्या स्टैंड ऑन क्रिप्टो करेंसी एंड क्या लीगल फ्रेमवर्क है, करंट क्या लीगल फ्रेमवर्क है इन इंडिया एज फार एज क्रिप्टो करेंसी इज कंसर्न्ड। सो अगेन इम्पोर्टेंट यहाँ पे यही है कि आप कितना अवेयर हो एंड बाकी लोगों को भी प्लीज अवेयर कीजिए अगर आप लोग अवेयर हो अबाउट क्रिप्टो ट्रेडिंग एंड कैसे ये फ्रॉड्स कंडक्ट किए जाते हैं। कोई ऐसा लिंक आता है आपको ईमेल्स पे भी आती हैं कि आप इतना पैसा कमा सकते हो, इतना ज्यादा प्रॉफिट आप कमा सकते हो क्रिप्टो ट्रेडिंग में। एंड बहुत सारे इंस्टेंसेस आपने डेफिनेटली सुने होंगे अपने आसपास में भी कि कैसे कितने किसी इंसान ने इतने करोड़ लगाए, इतने डूब गए पैसे। सो विदाउट नॉलेज एंड विदाउट प्रैक्टिस अगर आपका किसी चीज में एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है तो प्लीज अपना पैसा वेस्ट ना करें। So coming directly to the editorials. So again, this article is over the situation in Punjab. Not take that up again. सारी चीजें पंजाब के ऊपर ही आई हुई हैं आज तो। So let's, okay, the new global disorder. So with new alignments across Europe and Asia, the stage is set for a potential restructuring of Delhi's geopolitics. So obviously global world order change हो रहा है, it is shifting. And दो मैंने आपको बताए भी अभी जब हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि एक तो रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर की वजह से हाउ थिंग्स आर चेंजिंग ग्लोबली अगर हम बात करें, एंड रिसेंटली ईरान और सऊदी अरेबिया की वजह से भी वी आर सीइंग कि हाउ थिंग्स आर चेंजिंग, एंड इंडो पैसिफिक में भी हाउ थिंग्स आर चेंजिंग अगेन। ये सब बेसिकली फैक्टर्स दे आर पॉइंटिंग टुवर्ड्स कि हाउ द ग्लोबल वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर इट इज चेंजिंग। सो आर्टिकल की हेडलाइन तो यही है कि इट इज अ न्यू ग्लोबल डिसऑर्डर, but we'll take it in positive context only. So the shifting regional dynamic to the east and west of India demands an Indian diplomacy that is nimble, flexible, and open-ended. So more demanding on Delhi, however, is the profound transformation of the partnership between Russia and China. So ये भी हमने आज के आर्टिकल में आज के न्यूज़पेपर आज के एनालिसिस में देखा है कि Russia and China they are also moving closer. So since he became the Chinese leader, Xi Jinping has met the Putin more than 3 dozen times. And this week's trip to Moscow, it will be Xi's first since the Russia's invasion of Ukraine and his re-election as the Chinese president for an unprecedented third term. So, agar Russia or China they are coming closer, so definitely India को भी it needs to take into consideration कि वो क्या आने वाले टाइम में उसके लिए क्या repercussions हो सकते हैं, क्या वो इंडिया के लिए अच्छा है या नहीं. And obviously we know कि रशिया भी इंडिया का it is proved and all with a friend always. So अगर China is moving closer towards Russia तो हमें चीजों को फिर से एनालाइज करने की नीड है. So Bill Gates says कि if market isn't driving the availability of great solutions, then government will step in. So अगर market solutions provide नहीं कर पा रही है तो obviously government interference becomes important, and government को चीजें rescue करना would be the important steps. So he was there at the 5th Ramnath Goenka Memorial Lecture, which was held in Delhi this month, and Bill Gates, his co-chair and trustee of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He's a philanthropist, author, investor, and technology founder. He spoke on the significant role that India can play in overcoming the global challenges such as climate change, healthcare, besides commercial viability of the research and the significance of artificial intelligence in today's times. So he was in conversation with Anand Goenka, who is the executive director of the Indian Express Group. So some of the so obviously we'll also have a quick look at some of the quick questions. So first is, what gives you more joy, earning money or giving it away? So he says that I'm worthless every year, so I hope I enjoy giving it away, and I'm voluntarily giving it away, so I'm having a blast. I had made like I had fun making it too. So पैसा बनाने में मजा आया, and voluntarily he's giving, so he said कि I'm having a blast. Then, when was the last time you used ChatGPT and what did you type? So I was telling it to write things in Hindi last night. Of course, I have no idea what it was writing, but I play around with it. Whenever I have friends over, we joke around ChatGPT. So these are some of the questions. You can just have a look at these questions yourself. You can pause the video and just go through them once. So coming to the economy page, Indian economy is likely to keep pace of expansion, and we're optimistic about India, whatever the odds says RBI. So India we are having optimistic expectations about the economy, about our future growth, and Amazon is going to lay off 9,000 more employees. So a difficult time for the people working in private firms. So Indian banks, they can endure SVB and Credit Suisse fallout as per S&P. So S&P Global Ratings on Tuesday said that Indian banks and the rated finance companies, NBFCs, they can endure the potential contagion effects from the demise of the Silicon Valley Bank and the UBS HT takeover of the Credit Suisse. So Indian banking system ki jo health hai, that is stable, that is we are confident, we are having confidence, and as a koi concern, koi risk nahi hai to the Indian banking sector. We are following a disciplined system and we are functioning in a disciplined manner. So main reason हमने कल ये बात करी थी कि reason क्या है कि why we are saying कि Indian banking system is resilient, our economy is resilient, we are stable, things are positive, we are having optimistic expectations. So main reason तो यही है कि जो हमारा dependence है या हम कितना जो हमारा share है when it comes to the foreign sources वो बहुत ही कम है, and share भी we had a look at it yesterday, it was around 4.5% of the GDP. So बाकी सारा जो borrowings है by the government that is all from the domestic economy itself. So इतना ज़्यादा हम foreign institutions के ऊपर dependent नहीं है when it comes to borrowing. So this is one thing which is very important, and एक ये बहुत ही important factor है जिसकी वजह से Indian economy के ऊपर global events का इतना ज़्यादा impact नहीं होता है. And India could be top aviation market globally by this decade's end. So इस context में भी हमने देखा है कि different airlines, they have recently placed massive orders for airlines, for aircraft. So India could emerge as the top aviation market globally by the turn of the decade, surpassing United States and China on most parameters. And Civil Aviation Secretary, he said India is currently the world's third largest civil aviation market, and it has big ambitions to expand their connectivity, which is still beyond the reach of a significant chunk of the population. So basically, domestically, we are having different schemes and programs that are being run by the government. जहाँ तक air connectivity expansion की हम बात करते हैं. And one of them is Udidesh Ka Aam Nagarik. So making basically air travel more affordable is the main idea of it. So windfall tax on diesel export that has been increased. So windfall tax भी मैं पहले explain कर चुकी हूँ in simple terms में कि जो ऐसी companies हैं जिनका suddenly we can say कि profits बहुत ज़्यादा fluctuate करते हैं and they are able to earn higher amount of profit. So windfall tax उस profit के ऊपर charge किया जाता है and mainly it is the diesel companies, जो oil companies हैं उनके ऊपर ही windfall tax को लगाया जाता है. So this recently we are seeing कि windfall tax को increase कर दिया गया है on diesel. So coming to this explained page. So Sri Lanka की भी हम बात कर चुके हैं. IMF finally bailout जो it has been given to Sri Lanka. And this is about Russia and China. So यहाँ पे इंडिया के बारे में कुछ बात नहीं हुई, so we'll not take this up. So यहाँ पे again ये credit Suzy crisis के बारे में बात कर रहा है, how 81 wipeout could impact the global bond market. So UBS finally deal हो चुकी है that UBS would be taking over the credit suisse. So यहाँ पे भी okay, it is talking about impact on the Indian banks. क्या possible है? So the decision to write down the credit suisse 81 bonds, additional tier 1 bonds हम इनको बोलते हैं, to zero after the lenders take over by the UBS, it may contribute to a higher cost of capital for the banks, including the Indian lenders. So this is as per S&P Global Ratings कि अगर जो 81 bonds अगर उनको zero कर दिया जाएगा after this takeover by the UBS, so Indian banks पे भी impact होगा in terms of जो cost of capital है वो increase हो जाएगी. So the write down will weigh on the pricing of such notes and spook investors. So City analyst said this. So in India, जो 81 bonds of Yes Bank है, they were written down in March 2020 after the Reserve Bank of India initiated a restructuring of the troubled lender, that is Yes Bank. So उस time पे भी हमने basically काफी टाइम पहले we had discussed कि 81 bonds के बारे में in the context of Yes Bank only. So 2020 में इंडिया में भी हमने देखने को मिला कि जो 81 bonds थी they were written down by RBI in order to rescue this the Yes Bank. Since then, Indian banks they have raised their 81 bonds at an up to 75 basis points premium over the government bonds. And some bankers, however, they do not see a major impact in the fundraising capabilities of the Indian banks through these 81 bonds. So 81 bonds के through जो भी पैसा raise किया जाता है उस पे कुछ बैंकर्स का कहना ये है कि इंडियन बैंक्स के ऊपर इतना कोई मेजर इम्पैक्ट दे आर नॉट एक्सपेक्टिंग. सो वन ऑफ द रीजंस फॉर दिस ऑप्टिमिज्म इज दैट द स्प्रेड बिटवीन द रेगुलर बॉन्ड्स एंड द 81 bonds in India is less than 150 basis points. So even इंडिया की जो कॉर्पोरेट बॉन्ड मार्केट है that is also not so developed. So वो भी हमें कहीं ना कहीं हेल्प कर सकता है क्योंकि we are not so linked with basically we are not so linked and we are not so dependent upon fundraising through these 81 bonds because we have limited dependence on such securities. So that can basically also help the Indian banks. So strong funding profiles, a high saving rate, and government support, they are among the factors that bolster the financial institutions we rate. This is the rating agency said, and adding that the domestic banks, they had sufficient buffers to withstand the losses on the government securities portfolio due to rising interest rates. So बफर स्टॉक आपके पास कितना है, दैट ऑल्सो प्लेज एन इम्पोर्टेंट रोल कि आपके बैंक के ऊपर, किसी भी बैंकिंग इंस्टीट्यूशन, फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन के ऊपर कितना इम्पैक्ट होगा. And here we ended today. That's all for today. Thank you for joining in, Sarkari. And I hope you have well understood all the topics, all the important things that we discussed today. And we'll be also getting a PDF link. So have a look at it. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. Hit the like button for this video if it helps you and if you're following this every day. And do not forget to share this video. Thank you so much for joining us.